Overcast light can be so beautiful, but it can be tricky to paint. In this video, I'm going to break down how to capture that soft and moody light using tips from the book Color and Light by James Gurney. I'll show you the key ideas plus a quick walkthrough of how I use it in my own work. But first, we need to understand how overcast light works and what it is. In most naturally lit scenes, the sun is our main source of light. But under overcast conditions, sunlight doesn't hit the subject directly. Instead, it gets diffused and scattered by the clouds. That means that the light comes from all directions, which softens shadows and removes strong contrast. This kind of light is loved by both photographers and painters, and for a good reason. Without the harsh sunlight, shadows disappear, contrast softens, and the whole scene feels more peaceful and unified. In this first picture, we can see how the sunlight affects the color, especially in the greens on the hill. The background green looks bright because it's lit by the sun, while the ones that are in the foreground appear darker because they have a much stronger contrast because of the shadow. To compare this to the second photo, even though there are two separate hills on opposite sides, the overcast light softens everything and the contrast is minimal, and the colors feel more subdued and together. In some cases, the color can actually appear brighter under this kind of light, especially the local colors, like the color that the object naturally has, because you're not distracted by the hard light or the deep shadows. Something else to keep in mind under overcast light, the sky usually is the brightest part of the whole scene. Even pure white colors will look slightly darker than the sky itself. One of the favorite things that artists like about this type of light is that it simplifies form. Without the deep shadows, shapes read more like big shapes and blocks of color. Here's a little painting that I did, and see how it's easy to group the colors and values together. Overcast scenes are perfect for studying form and atmosphere without getting lost in too many details. Overcast light is a very common tool used in storytelling because it creates consistency. Here we have two different pages from two different graphic novels, and we can see how the artists both use diffused light to unify both of the atmospheres and actually make the focus be on the narrative without the big shifts in lighting. In a similar way, we can see, as framed from Sleeping Beauty, we can see how overcast light helps to unify the whole visual design, and also avoids strong highlights and shadows that help the animators reduce the complexity and make the scene easier to read and be more effective when they animate. So for my painting study, I decided to go with this reference photo because I noticed that it hits in some of the characteristics of overcast light that I didn't see in other pictures that I was looking at. So the first thing that I did was to paint the whole thing a sky blue that was really light to make sure that I had the lightest color first set on the whole painting. I made a really quick distinction between the sky and the sea so we can actually have that little contrast. And then I placed the other colors in big shapes so I could actually know where the grass was going to be. Something that you have to keep in mind is that even though you are painting something that is in overcast lighting and the colors get to be similar, it doesn't mean that you're not going to add shadows, because shadows is the thing that helps to define the piece and actually make it look more 3D and makes it be more refined. So you have to keep that in mind when you are painting. So here I am trying to make sure to have the darker places have that shadow and to be able to make it look more 3D. So here I started painting the boat in the background that I know the local color is white, and sometimes if you don't pay attention, you're going to be thinking that it's going to be a different color. So I was so grateful that James Gurney talked about this in his book when he was going through this section because it made me notice, and now I cannot unsee it whenever I see a picture and I notice that the local color of a thing is white but it looks a little bit darker. I just have that in my mind and helps me think about like a painter instead of just a viewer. Because it's crazy to me. You look at this picture and you say, yep, that's a white boat. Like, what? That's totally gray. But you can see it as a white boat. Finishing up this painting was actually the most challenging part for me because the nature of Overcast light having very soft and low contrast, it was hard for me to tell when the painting felt done. Without the strong shadows or highlights, I kept wondering if it looked too unfinished. Every painting is a simplification of reality, but in this case, I was wondering if I was simplifying way too much, and it felt a little bit empty or incomplete. But at the end, I got to a point where it felt right and I decided to be done. I hope this video helped you see Overcast light in a new way and it gave you ideas on how to paint it more confident. Let me know in the comments if you ever tried to paint this kind of lighting before and how it went. And if you want more tips from the book Color and Light or other art books, don't forget to like and subscribe. Bye!